Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're going to go over student organization advisor training for our RSOs. So to get us started, we're just going to talk about what we're going to be going over today. So we're going to be talking about what is a registered student org, or we'll refer to them as RSOs. We're going to go through things for you to know, things for you, expectations for you, expectations for the organization, to you, main points of contact, upholding standards both with the university, and then upholding our Jesuit values. So to start out with, we're going to go through some advisor do's and don'ts. You can pause the video if you want to read all these. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to hit on a couple key points. So advisor do's we want y'all to know about is that verify that your RSO is in compliance with all training that they're required to do with Loyola. So just like you're required to do an advisor training to serve as their advisor, the student orgs are also required to do certain trainings throughout the year to stay in good standing. Please make sure that you are guiding them and empowering them to lead the organization. So you as the advisor should not be doing the day-to-day operation of the student organization. They're student-led, so they should be doing things. Y'all in our office are there to support them and provide them guidance, but they should be the ones doing all of the work. So it shouldn't be following on you to do all those things. Develop expectations. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But you should also be meeting with them on a bi-weekly basis, which we'll talk about, whether that is an in-person meeting or virtual or a phone call. Y'all can kind of set those expectations with each other. But we do want you to be visible when your schedule allows for it. Encourage them to provide you with feedback to keep you in the loop throughout the process. And then also be available in case any emergency situations arise with your organization that you are leading. Advisor don'ts is we want, again, for you to not be the one running stuff. That should be them. Do not do any I told you so's or anything like that. If you have a difference in philosophy or opinion for the organization, if you can keep that bias and opinion to yourself and try to be as neutral as possible when assisting the organization. Encourage them to be inclusive, which we'll talk about in a minute, but also encourage them to step out of their comfort zone and help the organization grow. And we also want our student orgs to, again, we want them to be holding themselves responsible and you be there to guide them. So organizational leadership, these are things that if any of this changes while you're advisor, you should be notifying our office and the organization should be notifying you as well. So if there's any change in the organization, a student president leaves, you as the advisor have to change, anything like that, you should be notifying the Department of Student Life and Ministry when that happens. You should be verifying students are enrolled and in good standing if they're serving on leadership positions. So every semester, you should be checking to make sure that they don't have any major conduct violations that would prohibit them from serving in a leadership position. And then we want to make sure that all of the members of our student organization, both on the executive board and just everyday members, are actually enrolled students here at Loyola. Review programming and materials. So while we don't expect you to do every single step of the process, we do expect you to be informed, and that's both on you and the student organization to set that understanding with each other. We want to encourage our members to be inclusive, and so we want all of our RSOs to be open to all students if they're interested in joining or partaking in programming. So whenever our student orgs are programming or planning their events for the semester of the school year, we want to encourage inclusivity. Then just other things as they arise. So any kind of situations, it's much better to let us know and us not need to do anything than vice versa. And that's true both for the student organization to you and also for you to Student Life and Ministry. A huge part of being a registered student org is financial management. So if student orgs apply for funds through SGA, if they raise dues or do a fundraiser or anything like that, it's really important they keep detailed records of those. So they should have a treasurer as one of their positions, and that person should keep a detailed record of all the money they bring in, all the money they bring out, and they should be reviewing that with you. Encourage students to be thoughtful on how they spend their funds. We want to make sure that we are We have integrity with how we're using money. This is all funds that are either raised through different fundraising or dues or whatever, or if they're applying for SGA funds, we want to make sure that we're using those towards the betterment of our students and the better experience for them here at the school. Please become familiar with all of your student organizations, account numbers and balances. So this is where that detailed records of y'all's balances should come in. Your student organization should know those. You should also have records of those. If you need to reach out to our office to let you know what your RSO's account number is, please feel free to get in contact with us and we can let you know that information. If your student organization is hosting an event and they're hiring a DJ or they're hiring a catering or they're doing something where there's a vendor, you need to be working with the Assistant Vice President of Student Life and Ministry on all contracts for registered student orgs. And so you have to sign off on it before they can do anything. If you are placing a Sodexo catering order, so if there's a program happening in the Dana Center, we have to use Sodexo. Sodexo is always going to be our first choice whenever we're doing stuff, but you're actually going to be responsible for putting in that purchase order, and you'll need to schedule a meeting with our office to help you with it, or you can reach out to someone in the purchasing office and they can show you how to do that. But you as the advisor will be responsible for getting a quote from Sodexo and then putting that purchase order in once you do so. As the advisor, you are required to be at all events where we expect there to be more than 50 people in attendance. And that is just for risk management, which we'll touch on in a second, but also just with crowd control and making sure that you're visible with those things. And then just like the bottom part says, be visible and attend RSO meetings when possible. Whenever your schedule allows it, attend programs, attend executive board meetings, attend any kind of meetings they have. We would like for you to go to a couple a semester, but again, depending on your schedule. So we've talked a little bit about what your responsibility as the advisor. Now we're going to talk about what the organization's responsibility is to you. So again, that clear communication. Your student president, your executive board should be keeping you updated on anything that happens as far as programming, changing an executive board, any kind of social media stuff they plan on putting out or flyers they plan on hanging up. You should always be in the know on what's going on with the student organization. And that's where those bi-weekly meetings come into play. Whenever they have executive board meetings or they have town halls or chapter meetings or whatever it is, they should be providing you with minutes from those so you can review those and give them any feedback. They should consult with you prior to any changes to the student organization. So if they want to change their constitution or if they want to do any major changes to branding or anything, they need to be running that by you before they make any major changes. They should also bring any issues to your attention. So these are young adults that are students who are working together on projects. So conflict is bound to arise. And when it does, just making sure that they work with you on those. And then also respecting your time. They need to understand that you have a job outside of being their advisor. Most of you advisors, I think all of the advisors, y'all serve as an advisor to a student organization for free. So you do this just out of the kindness of your heart. And so they need to be respectful of that and not be, calling or texting you all throughout the night. Whatever boundaries y'all set, that goes back to that clear communication and those bi-weekly meetings. They should be respecting your time outside of work. So we talked earlier about some risk management, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it now. And so please report any issues to the Department of Student Life and Ministry. And so if you don't think that it's a big deal, we would still like for you to report it to us. We much would prefer that we know and not need to do anything than vice versa. And again, the organization should be clearly communicating those with you. As part of your bi-weekly meetings and when you're able to attend their e-board meetings, try to mitigate risk where you can. So if they plan on hosting a program, talk about what are some potential issues that might rise up. What are some ways we can do to combat that, to be proactive about things. And so that's kind of where that comes in. Next up are 3 resources that we want you to be able to use. So the Counseling Center, LUPD, and Conduct. So just like we said earlier about any event that has over 50 people you're required to be at, any event that has over 50 people, they're also required to have LUPD at. And there's a contract and a payment they have to do for that. So they need to be considering that when they're scheduling large scale events. So if they're doing a big thing for homecoming or they're doing like a big program, they need to work with LUPD on that. Conduct. So this is a huge part is we want students to know what the conduct policy is for student organizations. They can see that in the student organization handbook. But we want to make sure that we're using all our resources available so the students are have as much information as possible when they're doing programs. And at the end of the day, we want all of our students to have fun. We want all of our students to feel included and feel like there is a community for them here at Loyola. And so all of this risk management is just us making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, we're taking care of our students, we're having a really good time, but we're doing it in a responsible way. Next up is event management. So we're going to talk in a second about How Connect, but I just want to talk. How Connect is a student portal for all of our student organizations. A lot of our departments use How Connect as well. It is our one-stop shop for all things Loyola. And so we're going to walk through kind of the layout of it in a second, but any kind of programs must be submitted at least 14 days in advance. So this is for executive board meetings or chapter meetings or large scale programs, any kind of programs like that. They need to put those events in How Connect at least 2 weeks in advance. So 14 days prior. So more than 10 business days in advance. They can't have events off campus. They cannot have events at anyone's private residence. And so if they want to have an event, a fundraising event at Dat Dog, or if they want to do an event at Audubon Park, they're more than welcome to. Again, put those in at least 14 days in advance, but they shouldn't be going to anyone's private house to have a cookout or things like that. That should not be anything they should be doing. A part of events is they can do overnight travel. So student organizations can have events outside of the city limits. They can do overnight travel. We have a very detailed travel policy in our student org handbook that I encourage you to look at and encourage our student orgs and our student leaders to make sure that they thoroughly understand before planning any kind of travel and this applies for anything that's over 25 miles away from campus. So anything really outside of New Orleans. So if they're going to Baton Rouge for an event or if they're going out of state for an event, it's really important that they follow that travel policy to a T. Those must be put in at least 14 days in advance, just like the event management. I will say for both of these and for all of our events, 14 days is the minimum. We encourage student orgs to put events in as early as possible. So whenever our student orgs meet at the beginning of each semester, if a good rule of thumb is for them to go ahead and put all their events in for the entire semester. And if they need to pivot and change stuff throughout, that's totally fine. But it's great to have a really good foundation. And in these 14 days, if there's any extra paperwork they have to submit or any extra steps they have to do, it gives them plenty of time to do those, and they're not worrying about fighting against the clock. For any of our students that are traveling, they have to fill out a medical release form and informed consent form. So again, this is where that giving themselves as much room as possible to complete stuff to make sure they get all their paperwork in. And again, encourage them to look at that travel policy in the student org handbook. So earlier we talked about How Connect. This is what it looks like. So you access How Connect through signing into single sign-on, and then you'll see one of the boxes say How Connect towards the top. And this is our one-stop shop for everything. So all of our departments on campus, all of our student orgs on campus, any kind of forms they need to fill out, if they're requesting funding from SGA, if they're requesting the travel policy, if they're going to try to rent one of our vehicles, there's all these different things they should be using. Students can also use How Connect to see what's going on campus. So it's a great way for your organization to promote their events. And it's a great way for our students to see what all goes on campus. If they're bored on a Tuesday night, they can take a look at this and say, oh, I see that there's a cookout going on, or there's intramural basketball, or there's these other events going on. So it's great for that. Cork is something that all of our students use. It is the mobile version of How Connect. And so whenever students come in as transfer students or incoming first-year students, they get one of these QR codes. And so they know from their first orientation session to have their QR code out, and the student organization or the department will scan that code as and that's how they check into an event. This is wonderful because we've been using it for a couple of years, so now our students just know to use it throughout their entire time at Loyola. But it's wonderful for y'all because y'all can look back and see, oh, this event was really well attended, or this wasn't really well attended. At the end of the year, if y'all want to pull any reports, it's a great way to do that. It makes it very easy, very user friendly, and so it's phenomenal for that. But this is just something that your students should learn more about. So that is it for our advisor training. If you have any questions, we please encourage you to first reach out to the student organization handbook. That should be our students and advisors go to if they have any questions about anything with their student organization or what they're required to do. It's going to be available below this video. They can also access it by going to the Department of Student Life and Ministry page on How Connect. They'll also receive this information when they go through their individual training. But we just encourage y'all to review that. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Give us a call, shoot us an email. We are here to help. It's going to be a great year full of fun programs, and we appreciate y'all so much for being willing to donate your time to advise them and support them. It really means a lot, and it makes the student experience so great. So thank you again. Have a great day. Give us a call if you need us.